What's up, everybody? It is Thursday. I think this is May 24th. Today, I want to talk about Israel Adesanya. Man, we haven't heard much about him lately. And I think what I might title this video is either Israel has to be sitting there getting pissed, or I would hate to be Israel's next opponent. One or the other. So let's get into that. We haven't seen Israel since he lost to Strickland. Right before he lost to Strickland was the Duplessis incident, where Duplessis won against Whitaker and then went in the cage, and they had their little moment. And then Duplessis turned the fight down. He turned the opportunity for the belt down. Strickland got it and won. And Duplessis wins from Strickland. Now, it's becoming a trend now, if y'all haven't realized this, on these newer age champions, where they don't want to defend. They understand that they're not going to strip them from the belt, so they will hold out to see if they can get a different matchup from an opponent they don't like. And I feel like that's what Duplessis is doing to Adesanya. Other examples of that is you can look at Leon. Leon held out on Colby. I don't know how he managed to do that for as long as he did, and then Dana turned around and acted like Leon's a soldier because he accepted a bunch of fights at 300, but Leon held out on Colby and then was finally forced into it. Right now, you got Topuria flirting with the idea. And there was one more. Anyways, you get the idea. These guys, they get the belt right away, and then they think they're not going to defend because it's like they didn't get a shot coming up, or this guy said that about him coming up. And it keeps working for people. It keeps working for them where they don't have to defend. So Duplessis says that his foot hurts, and he's just not ready to defend right now. That fight was going to be the main event for UFC 300. Israel came out and said he accepted the fight, and it was at 300, and he assumed it was the main event. And then it was announced that Pereira and Jamal Hill was the main event, and that's how Izzy found out he wasn't the main event, and Duplessis didn't accept the fight. Now, being the type of person Israel is, when he loses, he's carrying that with him. He's thinking about that constantly. Having lost to Strickland was definitely a huge hit to the ego. Then to have the guy that beat you lose in his first rematch against the guy you were talking crap to, that don't look too good either. And that's not, if you put yourself in Israel's shoes, that's going to mess with your pride and your ego a lot. Then on top of that, Alex Pereira has now achieved more than Israel has in combat sports. He's a 2-division champion. Israel tried to be a 2-division champion and failed. Alex has also beaten Israel more times than Israel has beaten Alex. There was one. Oh, I need to make sure I'm right on this, but he did it in a shorter period of time too. So, which is crazy looking back on it all, because the real reason Alex was ever signed to the UFC, not to say he's not talented and wouldn't have earned it, but he got rushed into that Izzy fight. What do you have, 3 fights prior to that? Because of who he was. So there was a story to tell, because Israel had already lapped the division. So look at all this personal stuff. Israel's oldest and longest rival has now surpassed him in his sport. In the sport that Israel was the face of, and said that the one guy that beat him a couple times would be sitting in a bar telling stories about him. He's now come back and surpassed him again. Then he got to run in his mouth saying he's king of Africa. A true resident of Africa comes in and says, no, I'm the king of Africa, and wins the belt and won't give him a shot. Then you got Izzy, who's this high fight IQ. he's a very smart person. Sean Strickland is not a smart person. I think we can all agree on that. Like, we like him. He's got common sense, but he's not high IQ. I think we can all agree on that. That guy beat you for your belt. Like, he didn't just squeak by. He completely dominated you for that belt. So much so that you said you were going to take 7 years off. Like, man. In all seriousness, Israel's probably dealing with some depression. I think he's over it now because he's already back in the gym. He already got back in the gym for 300, and he was training for 300, and then he found out he wasn't in it about a month before, or a couple weeks before. I say all that to give all that example to. Israel's just sitting back thinking and waiting and going absolutely crazy because he can't prove himself. Not that he's not capable of it. I think he will prove himself in his next fight. But he doesn't have the opportunity right in front of him right now to know when he is going to be able to do that. And I got a feeling that's just making him angry. Think about it like this. It used to be Izzy called his fights. Izzy would decide who's fighting next at the end of his first fight. He would book his fight while he was still in the octagon. Now he can't even get a fight. Think how much power left him when how much feel of power and control and prestige left when you went from being champion, probably viewed as the pound for pound champion. John Jones was up there and they were having their talks of fighting each other, and then John went to heavyweight. And then literally in one night, it was taken away from you, and every day after, a little more got taken away from you, and there was absolutely nothing you could do about it. All right, so I keep getting off at providing the details of his perspective. So if he's sitting there going crazy, I got a feeling he is going to be so hungry in his next fight. He is going to come out with so much to prove. It's not going to be a spectacular stand there and watch the amazing kicks and the patient thing. I think we're going to watch Izzy go out and roll over someone. I think it's going to look like Sandhagen versus Frankie, except it's going to be way more brutal. Like, he's going to figure out that space in about 20 seconds, and he's going to be on whoever's on the other side of that cage from him. It's just my thoughts. I don't know who that next guy is going to be. We would say Duplessis. That seems to be the obvious fight, but I mean, all of us, including myself, can we really... Sean Strickland deserves the rematch. Sean Strickland deserves the rematch with Duplessis over Israel Adesanya getting a title shot. Especially like, you can't put Izzy in the belt picture at all now, because Strickland's fighting again. Strickland's fighting what, next weekend? Against Paulo Costa if he shows up. If he wins that, you have to give him the title shot. While Israel doesn't have a fight, and it's not even Israel's fault. It's a tricky spot. So, with that being said, I'm about to go swimming. I'm about at the gym. Got to wrap this up. But I think on the next fight Israel has, I don't even care who it's against. I would bet the house on Israel. And I hope it's against someone that he can really, really prove it against. I hope they get him in there with Chimaev or something. That would really, really do him some good. Like, he'd be right back in the talk of things. And don't get me wrong, as I'm kind of saying all this, I kind of feel like I'm sounding like I'm not his fan anymore. I'm still a huge Israel fan. I still believe in Israel a lot. He's my number 2. Sandhagen's still number 1. As long as Sandhagen calls for that belt after he beats Omar, Sandhagen remains my number 1 fighter. But you know what it is? We put it on out at the War Lab. Big time players make big time plays. We do some big things every round. I'm about to go make this Tootsie Roll.